The night the Pale Moon clan decided to sacrifice Lyra Vale, the snow did not fall from the sky. It rose from the ground, lifted by the brutal wind in white, twisting sheets until the whole mountain looked as if it were breathing frost. At the summit, beneath 12 stone wolves carved with blind eyes, a child in a thin linen dress knelt on the ice altar with her wrists bound in red thread. She was 11 years old. She had never shifted. She had never heard the inner howl that every werewolf child was born hearing. To the clan, that silence meant one thing: defect. Around her, elders in black ceremonial fur masks beat bone staffs against the frozen stones. Every impact sent a dull, hollow sound through Lyra's knees. The crowd did not look angry. That was worse. They looked relieved. A wolfless orphan could finally become useful. Her blood, they said, would appease the hungry spirits beneath PEACH-FORD, the sacred valley where no blossom had bloomed for 10 winters.
By the judgment of the moon, by the hunger of the old roots, we return the broken child to the snow. Let the clan be cleansed of weakness.
I can still work. I can carry water. I can learn herbs. Please, I don't have to be a wolf to be alive.
No one answered her. A silver knife was raised. The blade caught the moonlight, and the light on it was so cold it seemed to erase sound. Lyra stared at the knife, then at the elders, then beyond them into the storm. She had no one to call for. Her parents had died before she could remember their faces. The clan had never once called her daughter. So when the first cut opened her palm, she did not scream. She simply watched her blood bead bright and red against the snow, a tiny, impossible color in a world that had already decided she was worthless. Then the mountain went silent. Not quiet, silent. The wind stopped mid-scream. The snow froze in the air as if every flake had been pinned by an invisible hand. One by one, the wolves in the crowd lowered their heads, not from respect, but because their bodies recognized a greater predator before their minds could argue.
Put down the knife.
Seth Ardan stepped through the suspended snow. He wore no crown, no armor, no visible weapon. He needed none. The high priest of the Moon Temple was the only living alpha whose presence could bend a whole clan's instincts into submission. His eyes burned molten gold beneath black lashes, and the scent of thunderstruck cedar rolled off him in waves so heavy the torch flames bowed.
High Priest Seth, this is an internal matter. The child has no wolf. The old law allows
mercy before it allows murder. Or did your memory fail the moment the victim became small enough to bind?
Thorn's staff trembled in his hand. He tried to straighten. He tried to summon the dignity of his office. Seth did not raise his voice. He merely looked at him. The elder's knees struck the ice with a sound like a stone breaking. Around the altar, every masked elder followed, dragged down by the unbearable gravity of Seth's alpha command.
This child is under my protection from this breath forward. Her blood will not touch your altar again.
Why? I don't have anything. I don't even have a wolf.
Seth looked down at her. For the first time that night, something shifted in his face. Not softness, not exactly. More dangerous than softness. Recognition. He removed the black cloak from his own shoulders and wrapped it around Lyra's shaking body. The fabric swallowed her in warmth and cedar. For one suspended heartbeat, the storm seemed to smell faintly of rain on peach blossoms.
Then you will live long enough to discover what you do have.
He lifted her from the altar as if she weighed less than the red thread around her wrists. Behind him, the clan remained kneeling in the frozen snow, too terrified to breathe. Lyra pressed her bleeding hand against his cloak and looked over his shoulder at the stone wolves, the knife, the elders, the life she had almost lost. She did not know then that Seth had not saved a stray child. He had stepped into the first tooth of a prophecy sharp enough to tear both their lives open. 10 years later, PEACH-FORD finally bloomed again, but Lyra Vale did not. The rescued child had grown into a young woman with a face too pale for spring and hands so thin the blue veins beneath her skin looked painted on. In the hidden tower of the Moon Temple, peach petals pressed against the high windows like soft pink snow. Every morning, she woke to find strands of dark hair scattered across her pillow. Every evening, a bowl of bitter medicine waited beside her bed, steaming with a metallic scent she could never identify. Seth had raised her with the precision of a prison warden and the silence of a man performing penance. She was forbidden to leave the eastern courtyard without permission, forbidden to cross the protection wards, forbidden to attend full moon gatherings, forbidden to run, fast, laugh too hard, drink cold water, sleep with the window open, or touch any relic marked with silver. He called these rules necessary. Lyra called them a cage, though never to his face.
You missed the dawn tonic yesterday. Starting tonight, Rena will watch you drink it.
Am I your ward, master, or your prisoner?
Both, when you behave like a child with a death wish.
The words landed like frost. Seth did not stay to watch her reaction. He never did. He turned away, black robes sweeping behind him, and left Lyra alone with the medicine and the petals tapping against the glass. Only after his footsteps faded did the old healer Rena enter, carrying a basin of blood-stained water too carefully to be noticed by anyone who did not already suspect a secret. Rena, why does my medicine smell like him?
Because the high priest blesses every dose. Drink while it is warm.
That night, long after the temple bells surrendered to rain, Lyra followed a thread of light beneath Seth's private door. Through the narrow crack, she saw what no one in the clan had ever been allowed to see. Seth stood over a bronze bowl with his left hand bare. A silver ritual blade lay against his chest, directly above the heart. He cut deep, too deep. Dark alpha blood fell into the bowl in thick, pulsing drops, steaming as if his body carried a furnace under the skin. Seth did not flinch. He only pressed a cloth against the wound and whispered an incantation that turned the blood gold at the edges. Lyra understood in one sickening flash. The medicine that kept her alive was not blessed by him. It was him. Drop by drop, night after night, for years.
Why would you do that?
The question escaped before she could stop it. Seth's head snapped toward the door. In the same heartbeat, lightning shattered across the sky. Lyra ran, not away from the tower, not exactly, away from the knowledge that every cruel rule had been soaked in his blood. She crossed the corridor, down the spiral stairs, through the eastern courtyard, and stopped only when the protection ward hummed before her like an invisible wall. She had spent 10 years obeying boundaries drawn by a man who would rather cut his own heart than explain himself. So she lifted her hand, pressed it through the ward, and stepped into the storm.
Come find me then.
The rain struck her like ice needles. Within minutes, her fragile body began to shake. Her lungs burned. Her soaked dress clung to skin gone blue with cold. When Seth found her beyond the ward, he did not arrive like a man. He arrived like thunder-given bones, crossing the field in one black blur.
Are you insane?
He seized her wrist. The moment his burning palm closed around her frozen skin, the rain changed. A faint scent rose from Lyra's body, too delicate to belong to any wolf, too intimate to be explained by flowers soaked in storm water. Rain after peach blossoms, soft, ruined, fatal. Seth went completely still. His pupils burned molten gold so bright they lit the rain between them.
Master?
Seth released her as if her skin had cut him. For one breath, Lyra saw something monstrous behind his restraint. Hunger, terror, recognition, and a grief so violent it almost looked like anger. Then he wrapped his cloak around her, lifted her in his arms, and carried her back through the rain without saying another word. Behind them, the ward flickered once, as if the old magic had witnessed the beginning of a disaster, and bowed. Seth did not sleep after the rain. He locked himself beneath the moon temple in the chamber where traitors were once broken for confession. The room had no windows, no fire, and no object soft enough to suggest mercy. By dawn, the redwood table had been crushed into splinters beneath his bare hands. The stone wall carried the imprint of his fist. Silver cuts laddered both his forearms, thin and precise, each one made to keep his mind from sinking into the golden madness that had awakened when Lyra's scent touched the storm. He had faced rival alphas without blinking. He had walked through battlefields soaked in wolfsbane and ash. But one fragile woman shivering in his arms had turned his own body into an enemy. The alpha inside him had recognized her, not as ward, not as child, not as duty. Mate. The word beat against his skull until he drove the silver blade into his arm again.
No, not her. Anyone but her.
When he emerged, he looked exactly as he always did. Black robes immaculate, hair tied back, eyes winter dark, not gold. The temple council gathered under the peach rafters, expecting punishment for the ward breach. Lyra stood among them in a white shawl, still fevered, still pale, but watching him with a calm that made his throat close.
Lyra Vale is of age. I will select a suitable beta husband before the next full moon. He will take her to a quiet estate beyond the temple border, where her health can be managed away from alpha politics.
The room became a held breath. Lyra did not cry. She did not accuse him. She did not even look surprised. She only lowered her eyes, and when she raised them again, she smiled with a softness that had no warmth in it.
As you command, Master. I hope he is obedient. You seem to value that quality.
The council took her calm for submission. Seth did not. He knew her silence too well. It was the quiet of a frozen river before the spring flood tore the banks apart. That evening, she did not drink the tonic. The next morning, she turned her face from the broth. By the third day, the blue beneath her nails had deepened, and loose hair gathered in dark crescents around her pillow. She became flawlessly polite. She thanked Rena for the medicine and left it untouched. She asked the seamstress what colors a beta wife should wear, then fainted before the answer came. She smiled at Seth when they crossed in the corridor, a serene, empty expression that punished him more cruelly than screaming ever could.
Stop this.
Stop what? I am preparing to be convenient.
Something in him snapped. Not enough to mark her, not enough to tell the truth, only enough to destroy the last illusion that he could remain gentle while hurting her. Seth strode into her chamber at midnight, took the untouched bowl from the table, and caught her jaw before she could turn away.
Let go.
Drink.
He forced the medicine past her lips with the precision of a man committing a sin he intended to survive. Lyra choked, bitter liquid spilling down her chin. His words were merciless. His hand at her jaw was hard enough to bruise, but the arm locked around her waist betrayed him. It shook. His fingers dug into her back as if he could hold her soul inside her body by force.
You do not get to die to punish me.
Then do not teach me that living is the punishment.
He went utterly still. The bowl slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. For one impossible second, his forehead nearly lowered to hers. His breath shook over her mouth. The scent of rain-soaked peach blossoms rose again, faint but devastating, and the gold began to burn through his eyes. Then Seth tore himself away and left the chamber without looking back. Lyra sat amid broken porcelain and bitter medicine, smiling as if she had finally learned where to press until the god bled. The spring banquet was arranged to prove that the Moon Temple had nothing to hide. Silk banners hung from the rafters, silver cups shone beneath peach lanterns. Pure-blood nobles laughed softly in the polished way of wolves who had never had to beg for a place at the table. Lyra sat at Seth's right hand, a position meant to declare protection. It only made the knives in the room turn brighter. Morwen Ash, daughter of the oldest Warblood line, wore a gown the color of moonlit steel. Her wolf was strong enough that lesser alphas lowered their eyes when she passed. She stopped before Lyra with a smile as thin as a blade.
The High Priest is generous. Few men would display a charity case at the main table.
Charity is still kinder than jealousy. You should try receiving some.
The smile vanished from Morwen's mouth. Her wolf aura struck without warning. To the nobles, it was barely a ripple. To Lyra's wolfless body, it was a mountain dropped on her lungs. The cup in her hand cracked. Blood burst hot and sudden from her mouth, staining the white tablecloth with one red flower after another. Seth moved before the first gasp finished. The hall did not see him stand. They only felt the air die. His alpha pheromone detonated outward, not warm cedar this time, but a storm rolling over a graveyard. Every silver cup within 10 paces shattered. Morwen's own wine glass exploded in her hand, slicing her palm open.
She is mine to protect. Do not mistake her fragility for permission.
Lyra tried to rise. Her knees failed. Someone shouted. A servant stumbled back into the terrace doors, and the wind off the frozen lake rushed in, carrying the smell of ice and old water. Lyra turned toward it, dizzy, breathless, humiliated by every eye watching her bleed. One step, then another. The world tilted. She fell through the open railing into the black lake below. The cold closed over her like a second sacrifice. Sound became distant thunder. Her hair lifted around her face in dark ribbons. Above her, the banquet lights blurred into golden wounds on the surface. She did not fight. Not at first. She was so tired of being rescued only to be caged, protected only to be abandoned, loved only in ways that looked exactly like rejection. Then Seth hit the water. His arms found her in the dark with terrifying precision. He dragged her against his chest and kicked upward, but Lyra caught his collar. In the drowning silence, with her lungs burning and his face inches from hers, she made the first honest choice either of them had allowed. She kissed him. Not softly, not like a girl begging for comfort, like someone pressing a lit match to a temple soaked in oil. Seth froze. For one broken heartbeat, he kissed her back. His mouth opened against hers, desperate, furious, alive. The lake around them warmed. Rain after peach blossom flooded the black water. Then he tore away and dragged her to shore. He laid her on the snow-stiff grass, coughing water from his own lungs, hands hovering over her as if touching her had become both salvation and crime.
Have you no shame? Throwing yourself at the first alpha who saves you. Is that what you think desire is?
I think desire is what made you kiss me back.
Seth struck silence into the world simply by standing. Then he walked away, soaked and shaking, leaving Lyra on the lakeshore beneath the watching terrace. By dawn, the whole temple whispered that the wolfless ward had tried to seduce her guardian. Lyra did not sleep. Fevered and wrapped in a stolen cloak, she slipped into the sealed archive where old laws were kept under glass and dust. Seth was already there. Elder Thorn stood with him beside a black-bound genealogy scroll.
Her scent confirms it. She is your fated mate, but her heart vessels are malformed. If a top alpha marks her even once, her blood will rupture from the pressure. She will die in your arms before the bond completes.
Then she must hate me enough to live.
Behind the shelf, Lyra pressed a hand over her mouth until her teeth cut skin. The rejection, the marriage, the rules, the medicine, the silver cuts on his arms. Every cruelty turned, suddenly, into the shape of a man standing between her and death, with his own heart as a shield. Lyra closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were dry. She had learned the truth. And truth, in the hands of a dying girl, was more dangerous than ignorance had ever been. After the archive, Lyra became obedient. Perfectly obedient. She drank the medicine. She attended lessons. She thanked Seth for ordering her future with a beta husband as if he had gifted her a garden instead of an exile. But inside that calm, something winged and reckless sharpened its beak against her ribs. If loving him was fatal, then perhaps death was not the worst sentence. Perhaps living carefully while he bled himself empty was. War arrived before summer. Border packs vanished. Human hunters armed with silver fire crossed old treaties. The Moon Temple Council smelled weakness and called it strategy. Elder Thorn offered Seth a cure rumor wrapped in chains, an ancient holy root sealed in Morwen Ash's family vault, said to repair malformed blood vessels.
Marry Morwen. Unite the war lines. Give the clan an heir strong enough to survive the coming blood season. In exchange, her family opens the vault for your ward.
Seth did not look at Lyra when he accepted. That was how she knew it cost him. He could face armies, curses, and knives, but not her eyes when he chose her survival over her heart.
Congratulations, Master. Lady Morwen will look beautiful beside you.
Leader.
No, let me be useful. I have had years of practice.
Morwen made certain useful meant visible. The next day, she summoned Lyra to the bridal chamber and ordered the seamstresses to fit the Wolf Queen gown on the wrong body. Layer by layer, ivory silk closed around Lyra's fragile frame. The ceremonial collar rested at her throat, embroidered with the mark of a mate she would never be allowed to bear.
It hangs on you like a funeral sheet. Still, the high priest should see what Charity looks like dressed as a bride.
Seth entered without warning and stopped as if struck. Lyra stood before the mirror in his bride's gown, white as a ghost, lips colorless, one hand braced against the wall to keep from swaying. His pheromones changed before his face did. Thunderstruck cedars soured into something scorched and acid, the scent of jealousy forced to rot under discipline.
Take it off her.
Why? It is only fabric. It cannot hurt me more than the decision already has.
The betrothal feast fell on a full moon. By sunset, every alpha in the temple had gone restless, their wolves pacing beneath skin. Morwen entered on Seth's arm in the corrected gown. The hall applauded. Lyra watched from the doorway, fever bright and calm, One hand pressed against her failing heart, she walked into the room, step by step, pale, smiling, dying. Then she let go. Rain after peach blossoms flooded the hall, soft enough to seem innocent and potent enough to drive every alpha instinct into violent confusion. Chairs overturned, wolves snarled under human throats. Morwen staggered back, suddenly irrelevant in her own ceremony.
Enough!
Seth crossed the hall, tore Lyra from the center of the chaos, and lifted her over his shoulder as if the entire—
Bite me.
No.
I know the truth. I know it will kill me. I am asking anyway. Give me one honest death instead of a lifetime arranged around your fear.
Seth caught her wrists and pinned them gently, terribly, against his chest. His fangs had already descended. Gold burned in his eyes. The skin over her scent gland pulsed beneath his stare. Everything animal in him wanted to obey. Everything that loved her refused.
You are my ward. You will remain my ward. Forever.
Lyra stopped struggling. The light in her face did not go out dramatically. It simply withdrew, like a candle carried into another room.
As you wish.
Outside, the full moon rose white and pitiless above PEACH-FORD. Inside the tower, Seth held the woman he refused to claim and felt the bond between them twist into something quieter than rage and more dangerous than grief. He had saved her life again and watched her leave him without moving an inch. After the tower, Lyra did not break loudly. Loud pain could be answered. Hers could not. She woke, dressed, sat by the window, and watched peach petals fall with the mild curiosity of a doll placed near sunlight. She ate when told, drank when watched, smiled when spoken to. Seth discovered, too late, that despair did not always sharpen into rebellion. Sometimes it became obedience so flawless it felt like standing beside a corpse that still breathed.
Ask me for something.
You have already given me everything you allow.
Morwen watched the transformation with hatred dressed as dignity. Seth had ruined her betrothal before the entire clan and punished no one except himself. Worse, he still visited Lyra's chamber every night, standing outside the door like a condemned man before a shrine. So Morwen chose a softer weapon than public shame. She bribed a servant. She touched the nightly sleeping draught with a colorless poison brewed from frostbane root, slow enough to mimic Lyra's existing illness and cruel enough to make every organ surrender one by one. Lyra smelled the difference at once. Frostbane carried a sweetness like pears left to rot under snow. She turned the bowl in her hands and looked at Morwen, who had come to watch from the doorway.
Careful. A sick girl should not refuse medicine.
No, she should not.
Then Lyra lifted the poisoned draught and drank it dry. Morwen's smile faltered. For the first time, she understood she had not met a rival. She had met someone who no longer feared being harmed. 3 days later, beneath the oldest peach tree in the eastern courtyard, Lyra vomited blood onto the roots. Not a little blood, not a decorative tragedy. It poured from her mouth in dark, pulsing waves, while Seth stood 10 steps away, holding a report he would never finish reading. The paper fell from his hand. The world narrowed to red on snow, and Lyra's body folding soundlessly into the petals.
Rena, now! Nobody leaves the temple!
By dawn, Seth knew everything. The servant confessed before he touched her. Morwen denied it until Seth's alpha command forced truth out of her throat in broken syllables. He did not kill her. Death would have been clean. He placed one hand over her sternum and burned her wolf power out by the root. Her scream cracked the glass ceiling of the council hall.
You wanted to prove bloodline matters. Live without yours.
The punishment did nothing to save Lyra. Rena emerged from the sick room with hands that would not stop trembling. Seth stood very straight. His left sleeve was soaked from where he had opened his own veins again and again, pouring heart blood into medicine that no longer worked.
Her organs are failing. The poison found weakness already there and taught it to spread. 3 months perhaps, less if she remains among alpha pressure and clan conflict.
Day of locked room. Seth locked himself away for 1 full day. No one heard him shout. No one heard furniture break. That was what frightened the guards. When he emerged, he carried a verdict colder than execution.
Lyra Vale has brought disorder, seduction, and poison into this temple. Her presence endangers the clan. By my authority as High Priest, I strip her of clan name and ward status. At dawn, she will be taken beyond our borders and forbidden return.
The council believed him. Morwen, ruined and pale, laughed once from where she leaned on a cane. Lyra did not. She knew cruelty when it tried to hide kindness under ceremonial language. But knowledge did not warm her when they placed her in a thin traveling cloak and opened the northern gate to a world already buried in snow.
Do I still have to obey you outside the border?
No.
Then I won't look back.
She walked into the snow. Each step looked impossibly small beneath the mountain sky. Her hair whipped across her face. In her hand, she carried a single peach branch, already withered by frost. At the tree line, she let it fall. Only when her figure disappeared did Seth step from the shadow of the gate tower. His fist was closed so tightly that his nails had passed through his palm. Blood dripped onto the stone in silent, steady beats. He had broken her name to hide her from enemies. He had exiled her to remove the target from her back. He had chosen the most unforgivable method because forgiveness might tempt her to return. In the snow outside PEACH-FORD, Lyra vanished. In the shadow behind her, the god who saved her became the executioner of his own heart. Human towns did not know what to do with dying wolf girls who had no wolf. Lyra found a rented room at the edge of Willow Market, where the roofs leaked, the bread was cheap, and no one asked questions if rent arrived on time. She sold the last silver clasp from Seth's cloak to buy 3 weeks of shelter and a bundle of bitter human herbs that did nothing except stain her tongue green. By the 2nd month, she could no longer climb the stairs without gripping the wall until her nails split.
I promised not to look back. I did not promise to survive gracefully.
Parallel cut, Temple Tyranny. In PEACH-FORD, Seth ruled so efficiently the clan began to fear the absence of mercy more than rage. Border enemies were crushed. Thorn's allies were reassigned, imprisoned, or found suddenly willing to confess treason. The High Priest attended every council, signed every order, and slept nowhere. At night, the guards saw him in the abandoned tower, sitting on the floor with Lyra's old shawl in his hands, breathing in a scent already fading from the cloth.
Live, hate me as much as you need to. Just live.
Spring turned wet and cold. Lyra's world narrowed to the bed, the cracked ceiling, and the peach branch she had pressed in a book before the petals could fall apart. Her vision blurred first around the edges, as if darkness were slowly lowering a curtain. Then came the chest pains, deep and tearing, radiating down her arms. The human doctor pressed 2 fingers to her wrist and hid his face badly.
Miss Vale, is there family I should send for?
No family. There is someone, but he sent me away to live. It would be rude to die in front of him.
Ceremony, mate bond rupture. 1,000 miles away, Seth stood beneath the moon temple Oculus, presiding over the renewal rite. Silver bowls reflected the full moon. Elders chanted. Every clan eye watched him raise the ceremonial blade. Then the invisible bond inside his chest tore open. Not metaphorically, not poetically, physically. Pain drove through his heart with such force the blade fell from his hand and shattered the silver bowl.
Lyra.
The invincible high priest went to one knee before the entire clan. One hand clawed over his heart, molten gold flooding his eyes. Elder Thorn stepped forward, suspicion already sharpening his face.
High Priest, the rite must be completed. The clan cannot see.
Silence.
He abandoned the rite. He abandoned the staff, the moonblade, the council, the entire architecture of duty he had built to survive losing her. By the time the elders reached the courtyard, Seth had shifted into a black wolf larger than any beast in living memory and vanished into the storm. He ran through 3 provinces without stopping. Forests blurred, rivers split under his claws, rain hammered the roads into mud. In Willow Market, he shifted back beneath a broken street lamp, barefoot, soaked, half mad, chasing a scent so faint it might have been memory. Peach blossoms after rain, buried under sickness, smoke, and human medicine.
Lyra Vale, open every door, wake every house. I will pay in gold, blood, anything. Where is she?
He found the room by the silence. No candle, no hearth, no heartbeat he could hear through the rain. The human doctor stood outside with a linen sheet folded over one arm and pity in his eyes. Seth did not ask permission. He broke the lock with his shoulder. The room smelled of wet wood, extinguished fire, and the last breath of peach blossoms. On the narrow bed lay a body covered from face to foot in a white sheet. Seth stopped in the doorway. Every war, every law, every lie he had survived collapsed into that single shape beneath cloth. His knees hit the floor so hard the boards cracked.
No.
Thunder rolled over Willow Market. Rain ran down Seth's face, but there was no one left in the room who could call it rain. Seth crawled the last distance to the bed because standing belonged to men who still possessed a world. He reached for the sheet, but his hand stopped above it, shaking so violently the linen stirred from the displaced air. He had ordered executions without hesitation. He had cut his own heart open into bowls. Yet he could not lift a piece of cloth.
If you are punishing me, then punish me where I can bear it. Not here. Not like this.
He finally pulled the sheet down. Lyra's face appeared beneath it, waxen and impossibly young. Her lips were colorless. Her lashes cast faint shadows on cheeks sharpened by hunger and illness. Seth took her hand, and the cold of it passed straight through his skin into the marrow.
You thought I could live after you? You really believed I would keep breathing because I ordered you to?
He pressed his face into her palm. The god of PEACH-FORD, the alpha before whom clans knelt, folded over a dying woman's hand like a beggar warming himself over ash. His shoulders shook without sound at first. Then a low, ruined noise tore out of his throat, half howl, half prayer.
Wake up, Lyra, please. I was cruel. I was afraid. I was wrong. Hate me with your eyes open. Curse me, strike me, ask for anything. Just do not leave me where I cannot follow.
Her fingers moved. Barely. So faintly, the rain almost swallowed it. But Seth felt the small curl against his cheek as if the dead moon had ignited.
Master, so loud.
Seth lifted his head. Hope hit him with the brutality of a blade. She was not dead. Not yet. Her pulse fluttered under his thumb like a trapped moth, weak enough to disappear between beats. He gathered her against his chest, pouring heat into her with his own body, with alpha power, with every forbidden instinct he had starved for years.
It hurts. I tried to be good. I tried to leave like you asked. But it hurts, Seth.
She had not called him High Priest, not Guardian, not Monster. Seth. The name undid what grief had left intact. His restraint, built bone by bone over a decade, broke so cleanly that there was no sound.
I know one way. It may take everything from me.
You always did love dramatic punishments. The old scrolls called it the Root Exchange, a sacrifice older than the Moon Temple, forbidden because it did not heal so much as redistribute ruin. Life for life, power for breath, memory for heartbeat. A bond could be completed without killing the weaker mate, only if the stronger poured his own essence through the wound until the fragile body rebuilt itself around him. Seth did not have time for ritual purity. Elder Thorn's riders reached Willow Market before dawn, drawn by reports of a black wolf and the scent of a nearly dead mate. Arrows tipped with silver fire struck the roof as Seth wrapped Lyra in his cloak and leapt through the back wall in a storm of splinters.
The High Priest has betrayed clan law. Bring him down before he completes the abomination.
The return to PEACH-FORD became a war road. Seth ran with Lyra in his arms through rain dense enough to drown scent trails. He fought on bridges slick with blood. He shattered silver nets with his bare hands. Lightning exposed him again and again. Black hair plastered to his face, eyes molten, tears indistinguishable from rain, fangs bared at anyone foolish enough to step between him and the woman whose breath kept failing against his throat.
Touch her shadow, and I will unmake your bloodline.
By the third night, his feet had left bloody prints across half the mountain. The pursuers thinned behind him, broken by storm, fear, and the awful knowledge that Seth no longer cared whether he survived. At dawn, the peach trees of the hidden valley appeared through the rain, their blossoms bruised pink beneath a sky the color of steel. Seth carried Lyra to the same sacred ground where he had once lifted her from a sacrificial altar. This time there were no elders chanting, no knife raised by another hand. Only Seth, Lyra, the rain, and a vow old enough to demand a god as payment. In PEACH-FORD's hidden heart, the rain stopped as if the valley itself were holding its breath. Seth laid Lyra beneath the oldest peach tree, where roots twisted through stone like ancient hands. The blossoms above them were in full bloom, absurdly beautiful over a body that had endured too much pain to look peaceful, even in stillness. Her breathing thinned. Once. Again. Then nothing. The silence after Lyra's last exhale was not empty. It was a physical force. It drove Seth backward onto his knees, tore the sound from the birds, and turned every petal in the valley motionless.
Lyra!
His howl split the low clouds open. It was not a call for help. It was an accusation hurled at the moon, at the old laws, at every god that had watched him save her badly and too late. The valley answered with falling petals. Then Seth lowered his mouth to the scent gland at the side of her neck. He bit down. The mate mark opened beneath his fangs, a wound that should have shattered her blood vessels instantly. But Seth did not release alpha dominance into her. He turned the force inward, dragging it through his own veins, tearing it away from the throne of his wolf, from the golden furnace that made clans kneel. Blood transfer, sensory miracle. He ripped his wrist open against his teeth and pressed the wound to hers. His blood entered her like molten sunlight forced through a dead root. the valley shook. Beneath Lyra's skin, broken vessels lit gold, then white, then rose red. Her collapsed heart spasmed once, violently enough to arch her body from the ground.
Take it, all of it. My power, my years, my memory. Take whatever debt the world demands.
The payment began at his eyes. The molten gold dimmed, fading like embers drowned in rain. His shoulders, once carrying the unbearable weight of an apex alpha, trembled under a weakness he had never known. Black hair silvered at the temples, then whitened strand by strand. Every drop of blood that left him carried a season of his life with it. Lyra's body rebuilt itself around the sacrifice. Poison burned out through her pores as silver smoke. The malformed vessels around her heart stretched, cracked, and reformed stronger, threaded with Seth's alpha essence, but not ruled by it. Something long asleep inside her answered, not the absence of a wolf, but a wolf buried so deep the clan had mistaken silence for emptiness. A white spectral shape rose behind her for one breath, vast and luminous, its eyes not gold but clear winter blue. The old peach tree bent under a wind no one else could feel. The mark on Lyra's neck sealed, not black with domination, but pale as moonlit blossom.
Live. Even if you forget me. Even if I forget myself. Live.
Seth fell beside her. The last of the gold went out of his eyes. When his cheek touched the wet grass, the valley exhaled. 3 days passed in a blur of petals, mist, and 2 bodies lying beneath the tree like the remains of a myth. On the 3rd morning, Lyra opened her eyes. She inhaled without pain. For the first time in her life, her body did not feel borrowed from death. Strength moved under her skin, quiet and terrifying. Her hearing stretched to the river beyond the grove. Her senses filled with moss, rain, bark, old magic, and the faint, beloved scent of cedar reduced to ash. Seth? He lay beside her, transformed. His hair had gone completely white. The face was still his, too beautiful, too sharp, but emptied of command. His lashes fluttered. When he opened his eyes, they were gray, unfocused, and blind.
Seth, look at me.
I hear you. Are you hurt?
No, I am not hurt. Do you know where you are?
No, I am sorry. I cannot see, and I do not know your voice.
Lyra pressed both hands over her mouth, trapping the sound before it could become a scream. Seth had given the world his power. He had given her his blood. But the final price had been the cruelest one. He had purchased her future with every memory of the love that made him pay.
Who are you?
The woman he had died saving knelt beside him beneath the peach tree, alive at last, and broke without making a sound. Grief changed shape when there was someone helpless enough to protect. Lyra did not have the luxury of collapsing. Seth woke blind, weak, and trusting the hands that guided water to his mouth. He flinched at thunder. He tilted his head toward her voice like a lost animal learning where warmth lived. Each innocent question cut through her more cleanly than Morwen's poison ever had.
You're crying.
No. It is only rain on my face.
It is not raining.
Lyra almost laughed. Almost. Then the valley wards trembled. Not from weather. From boots. From silver. From the last desperate courage of men who believed Seth's fall had left the throne unguarded.
Lyra Vale! By order of the remaining council, surrender the fallen high priest and submit to purification. The abomination ends today.
Seth pushed himself up on one shaking arm, blind eyes turning toward the threat. His instincts remained, even stripped of memory and power. His body remembered protecting her before his mind remembered her name.
Stay behind me.
Not anymore.
She stepped between Seth and the approaching executioners. The girl they had called wolfless did not raise a sword. She breathed in. The valley breathed with her. A white wolf of living moonfire rose behind her, vast enough that the peach trees bent beneath its spectral weight. Every executioner stopped. Their wolves recognized royalty before their politics did.
Impossible. She has no wolf.
No, you had no patience.
The first line struck the ground and threw them backward like leaves caught in a furnace wind. Silver blades melted before touching her skin. Alpha pressure, once a mountain on her lungs, now broke against her like rain against stone. She moved through them with an elegance that made violence look ceremonial. Thorn tried to invoke the old laws. Lyra answered by placing one foot on his fallen staff and breaking it in half. The crack echoed across PEACH-FORD. Around them, surviving elders dropped to their knees, not out of loyalty, but because the age of pretending she was weak had ended.
You used law as a knife against children, against wards, against anyone too powerless to answer. From this day forward, the Moon Temple recognizes no purity higher than mercy. Refuse, and your bloodlines end with your pride.
The return to the capital happened under a sky washed clean by storm. News traveled faster than horses. The defective orphan lived, the high priest had fallen, and a white wolf queen walked beside his litter with one hand resting on the rail, as if the whole world existed only to keep him breathing. In the throne hall, nobles who had once laughed behind cups pressed their foreheads to the floor. Morwen, powerless and gray, did not raise her eyes. Lyra stood before the moon-carved seat in a black gown trimmed with peach blossoms and accepted the crown with bloodless composure. The circlet was cold, lighter than she expected, crueler.
Are they bowing to you?
Yes.
Then you must be very brave.
Lyra's fingers tightened around the arm of the throne. All the elders were kneeling. All the enemies were beaten. The world that had demanded her death now trembled at her breath. She had won the clan, the temple, the title, the future. But when she looked down at Seth's blind, peaceful face, the victory opened inside her like a locked room with nothing in it.
I would have traded it all for you to remember one thing.
No one heard her over the roar of the crowd. Perhaps that was mercy. Perhaps it was only the shape victory takes when it arrives too late. Power, Lyra discovered, was easier to hold than a spoon of hot broth in front of a blind man who did not remember he once commanded storms. She left the council to a regent she trusted, sealed the Moon Temple under new law, and returned to the hidden tower with Seth before autumn stained the peach leaves gold. The clan called it retreat. Lyra called it the only place where breathing did not feel like performance. The tower remembered them badly. The eastern window where she had once waited for medicine. The corridor where Seth's footsteps had sounded like judgment. The chamber beneath the temple where his blood had filled bronze bowls. Now his rooms were moved to the sunniest floor. Rugs softened the stone. Sharp corners were wrapped. Books were arranged by texture because he could no longer read their titles.
You have made a prison very comfortable.
It was always comfortable. That was the problem.
Morning became ritual. Lyra guided his hand to the wash basin. He learned the number of steps from bed to balcony. She brushed white hair from his forehead and pretended her fingers did not tremble when they passed the place where gold once burned behind his eyes. In the afternoons, she read to him from histories he had lived and poems he had hated. He listened with the grave courtesy of a stranger receiving kindness he did not know he had earned.
This high priest in the story sounds difficult.
Difficult is a gentle word.
Did you love him?
Lyra turned the page, though she had not finished reading it. Outside, wind moved through the peach trees with a sound like rain beginning. The question had come softly, without suspicion. That made it worse.
Yes,
And did he love you?
more than his own life. Less wisely than he should have.
Seth nodded as if filing away the pain in her voice for later study. He had lost memory, not kindness. That was the cruelest mercy. He knew when she was hurt. He simply did not know he was the wound. One evening, a storm rolled over the valley. Thunder cracked above the tower, and Seth's hand tightened on the arm of his chair. Lyra crossed the room before the second rumble, kneeling beside him, letting him find her fingers.
I know it is only weather. My body disagrees.
Bodies remember what minds survive by losing.
He explored her hand with careful fingertips. The healed scars across her palm from poison days, the callus where a queen's ring had rubbed, the faint tremor she could hide from counsels but never from his touch. His thumb stopped at her pulse.
You are good to me. Were we husband and wife?
The tower disappeared. For one breath, Lyra was back in the high chamber, feverish, begging to be marked. Seth's old voice echoed through memory with the merciless clarity of a blade. You are my ward, forever. She swallowed the sound rising in her throat until it cut.
No,
No.
you were my master, my guardian, forever.
Seth absorbed this with solemn care. Then, as if the title meant safety rather than tragedy, he lifted her hand and pressed his forehead against her knuckles.
Then I must have been honored.
Lyra closed her eyes. Outside, rain began to fall over PEACH-FORD. Inside, the woman who had won every battle sat beside the man who remembered none of them and learned slowly the shape of a life built from what love had not managed to save. Spring returned to PEACH-FORD as if the valley had not witnessed sacrifice. That was the cruelty of beautiful places. Trees bloomed on time, rivers thawed, birds stitched morning songs through branches that had once held screams. Pink petals drifted over the tower roof, over the path, over the old stone altar now cracked and covered in moss. The world healed with an ease people rarely managed. Lyra learned the seasons of Seth's new life. On clear days, he liked the balcony because he could feel sun across his palms. On rainy days, he asked her to describe the clouds, then corrected her descriptions by scent, smiling when she pretended annoyance. He remembered nothing of the council, the lake, the poison, the altar, or the forbidden bite. But sometimes his hand moved before thought, reaching to shield her when a servant dropped a tray or thunder startled the windows. Instinct remained where memory had burned away.
Did I always worry so much?
You made an art of it.
On the first full bloom day, Lyra brought a wheeled chair to the garden path. Seth protested, politely and uselessly, that he could walk with a cane. Lyra ignored him with queenly calm, tucked a blanket around his knees, and placed one fresh peach blossom in his hand.
You are very commanding for a former ward.
I learned from a tyrant.
She pushed him beneath the trees. Petals fell around them, brushing his white hair and her dark sleeves. The air smelled of rain-washed bark, new grass, and the faint sweetness that had once driven alpha blood mad. Lyra no longer smelled like a dying omen. Her wolf moved under her skin in quiet, luminous strength. The mark at her neck had faded to a pale crescent, almost delicate. almost innocent.
You are quiet.
I was remembering the first time I saw this place.
Was I there?
Lyra looked at the cracked altar beneath the moss. She saw snow rising instead of falling, red thread around childish wrists, a silver knife, a black cloak descending like midnight, a man with molten gold eyes lifting her from death and calling it protection before either of them knew protection could become a curse.
Yes, you were there.
Did I save you?
More than once.
And I hurt you?
Petals tapped softly against the blanket. Somewhere beyond the grove, temple bells rang for noon, thin and distant. Lyra could have lied. She had lied with a queen's composure through councils, treaties, and the endless little conversations that kept Seth peaceful. But the garden was too honest for another beautiful falsehood.
Yes, but never because you did not love me.
I'm sorry.
I know.
A breeze moved through the tree above them. Petals loosened in a soft pink rain. One landed on Lyra's hair. Before she could brush it away, Seth lifted his hand. Blind, careful, guided by nothing but the old map of instinct, he found the blossom and removed it from her hair with the same grave tenderness he had once used to wrap his cloak around a shivering child.
There. You had a flower caught in your hair.
Lyra could not move. The gesture was too small to be a miracle and too exact to be nothing. For one impossible second, she saw him as he had been. Black-haired, gold-eyed, unbearable, beloved. Then the image passed, leaving a blind man holding a crushed petal between scarred fingers, and smiling because he had helped her in the only way he knew.
Thank you, Master.
You make that word sound sad.
It has carried too many meanings.
They continued under the trees until the path curved toward the river. The Queen of PEACH-FORD pushed the chair of the man who had once ruled storms. The valley bowed around them in petals and light. She had won the lifespan denied to her at birth. She had won the throne denied to her blood. She had won a future large enough to hold nations and long enough to outlive every enemy who had called her defective. But the one thing she wanted most remained beside her like a dream with its center missing. Seth was alive. Seth was safe. Seth was hers to protect. If protection could be called possession when memory refused to bless it. He would never again push her away with cruel words. He would never again look at her with molten gold hunger and terror. He would never remember the kiss beneath ice, the rain road, the bite, the blood, or the way his own voice had broken when he begged her not to die.
Peach blossoms were never a blessing, were they? They were always a calamity, wearing perfume.
Seth turned his face toward her voice, not understanding the grief, only trusting the woman who carried it. Another petal fell between them. Lyra pushed him onward through the blooming grove, smiling because he could hear smiles in breath, crying because he could not see tears in sunlight. Behind them, the old altar disappeared beneath flowers. Ahead of them, the river at PEACH-FORD ran bright and cold, carrying every vow, every wound, and every unfinished love toward a horizon neither of them could name.